In a world that can be challenging and at times unpredictable, it's hard to find moments to focus on what you need. Join Stephanie James on The Spark as she guides you to use your inner flame to ignite your best life. As a best-selling author, psychotherapist, transformational life coach, and international show host, Stephanie is dedicated to helping you create a life that takes you, your goals, and your passions to the next level, so you can live a life that is fully lit up and fully alive. She believes that your life is meant to be a beautiful expression of the things that light you up. That by living your dreams, you give permission to others to do the same. Are you ready to feel alive and inspired to fuel your dreams and put a fire behind your desires? Let's ignite a spark in one another that will illuminate the world. The Spark, with your host, Stephanie James, starts now.
Welcome to The Spark. I'm your host, Stephanie James. Just absolutely thrilled today to have Billy Mandarino, who is an author, speaker, and Now-ist, and has a book called The Now-ist. And so, Billy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Stephanie James. You are a light. I understand why your show is called The Spark, because you are the light that created that spark. Or the spark happened, and then boom, here you are, this bonfire of consciousness, of teaching, of disconnection. I'm so honored to be on your show. I love what you do. I love the light that you are in the world.
Thank you. Thank you. And reflected back at you. And you know, I paused at the Now-ist because I almost asked you a question. I thought, well, I got to get this done with the introduction first. But I love this word Now-ist. And so, you know, and the name of your book, The Now-ist, what does that mean to you?
So the Now-ist, there was really a calling. I've been a spiritual seeker my whole life. I guess my whole life starting at 7 when my mom and dad, I'm from 6 kids, big family. And my mom and I got divorced when I was 7. And I had a traumatic experience, as well as all 6 of my brothers and sisters, where we had to sit on the stand, minus my little baby sister, who was only 2 years old. And we had to look at our mom with her lawyer and my dad with his lawyer and pick which one we wanted to live with. Back then that was acceptable. Now they wouldn't do that. That'd be cruel and unusual punishment. But we were raised Mormon at the time. And I remember sitting up on another stand at church, giving your testimony and talking about your faith and your walk with God and Jesus. And I just remember after that traumatic divorce, and it was just tough on all of us kids, I went deep into the New Testament at 7 years old. I mean, I was learning about this, but I thought, no, God is going to help me through this. My faith just ramped up at 7. And there's just strange synchronicities that occur along the way, but that was the beginning. So I've been this spiritual seeker and this spiritual sponge, if you will. And I've been absorbing all these different types of teachings from Mormonism, Catholicism, Christianity, Buddhism, Taoism, the Zen traditions, phenomenal spiritual avatars that have walked this planet. But in 2017, that spiritual sponge, it wrung out in the form of this book that we call The Now-ist. And as Khalil Gibran says in The Prophet, he says, your children don't come through, they're not here for you, they come through you. It's life's longing for itself. And I feel like this book was just born through me. It's not for me. It's a teaching I have to give and offer. It's a spiritual memoir of my experience of finding the present moment and living as a Now-ist. It's a way of life. It's not a religion, Stephanie. It's a way to live in the present moment as a way of life and a practice. And the more you do that, all the problems, the overwhelm, the stress, the anxiety, the fear, all the things that we go through in this physical body, they melt away, because the present moment is the most powerful moment I believe that we have in our daily life. And I just have learned to connect to it consistently. I just want to share it out with people. Now I share it through music and through live seminars we have coming up in May this year. There's just all kinds of ways to find the present moment. And I've found many portals, and I want to share them with everybody.
Well, and it's so beautiful. I've listened to some of your music, and I love your band's name is Present Tense.
Yes, in the present tense.
I love that. So it's all focused on what we experience in the now, because, as you and I think really resonate on this, this is the moment that miracles come from. This is the moment where our greatest sense of self, whether it's dreams being realized or connection with another person, it can only happen in the now.
Exactly. And we all miss that. We get so caught up in, I mean, it sounds corny. You've heard it a million times. We're not human, doings. We're human beings, but we're so caught up in the doing and competing with everybody, the Joneses, and trying to measure up to people and grades and accomplishments and jobs and relationships and kids. And there's so much in the physical world that we get distracted with. We're in this distracted society, as we all know, especially with the social media juggernaut. But how often do you all, I know you do, but most people don't connect to the present moment as a way of life, as a consistent practice. Yes, we do meditation, we pray, but it's with us in the room at all times. You don't have to just do your meditation in the morning. I'm in the present moment consistently. I live in this ratio of 90% in the present moment, living, in this physical world, but focused on divine teachings, the spirit that I am, the light that I am in this world, the being of service that I am. And 10%, I have to do emails and go to appointments. Like I have an appointment today I have appointments and things to do and emails. And I'm a realtor and a property manager. That's how I monetize the Now-ist. That's how I bring this mission into the world. That's my day job, if you will. And we have things to do, but you get out of presence. And for me, I just have a low pain threshold, I guess. When I get out of presence, it's so uncomfortable that I just snap back in quickly. So living in that ratio of 90-10, is what a Now-ist does. When you become a Now-ist, when you learn to live this way. I think the inverse is true for most people. 90% of the time you're in the world doing, making things happen, stressing, worrying, having the wins. And then 10% of the time you have a meditation practice. You go to church, you go to your ashram, your temple. You might meditate and connect to source, into the silence, but the inversion is the problem. I'm trying to get people to invert that and get back to the 90-10 on the light side, the powerful present side of living.
Well, and and that's the key, right? I'm curious, what time in your life did that really start coming through for you? What time would you say that you really opened up to this experience of the now?
Wow, that's a great question, because this book came out in 2018. Last year, we had our first live seminar. We're having another one this May 13th and 14th. But about this time last year, Stephanie, I mean, the Now has been with me as a way of life since probably 10, 15 years now. I mean, Eckhart Tolle's book found me synchronistically, and that's a whole other story. Wonderful teachers were just synchronistically, falling in my lap. And this is what I was supposed to follow and study. This was my dharma, my mission. But last year, my wife turned 50. Her birthday is New Year's Eve. And I guess to go into the now, it's because time is the illusion, right, Stephanie? It's an illusion. Einstein said it's an illusion. It really is. There's this linear timeline. There's this chronological past, future, psychological timeline. So I know the book came out in 2018, but last year, my wife turned 50. We went to Miami for her birthday. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version because for sake of time. But we couldn't have, in California here, we were locked down. We couldn't have the party that I wanted to have and surprise her with a bunch of people. And so I said, we're going to go to Miami. We're going to stay at the Fontainebleau. Nelly, this artist Nelly, you've heard of Nelly, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
He had a beach party for 1,000 people. And I thought, this is going to be it. She loves the beach. She loves warm weather. She loves the ocean. It's perfect. It's on the beach. But we were in COVID times. California's locked down. Miami's not. So we go there. We're socially distanced. We're responsible. They're going to have this outside party, and they shut it down like 3 hours before they were going to do it because I think it was going to be a super spreader event in their mind. But what they did, the hotel said, no, we're going to bring it inside because we don't want to give everybody their money back, I think was ultimately what they decided. So 33,000 square foot ballroom, tables were 20 feet apart. And we had a great time. We wore a mask. We were consistently socially distanced, and there was no dance floor. It was a great time. We flew back January 4th. And then a couple of days later, she and I both started to feel sick. And of course, it's the time of COVID. COVID's rampant everywhere at this point, especially California. And we don't get sick. My wife has been sick maybe once in the 29 years I've known her. I haven't had a flu or cold in over a decade. I don't get sick. I have spiritual immunity. I have great physical immunity, which I think there's a very much linked. Anyway, I was in this bed for 10 days with 102 fever. My wife and daughter, my wife got it. My daughter got it all from me, of course, or from us. They healed up in like a day, but I was so sick. I lost 20 pounds. COVID just was about to take me out. And I felt like there was this war going on in my body, like a war I've never known. And I had this 102 fever every night. So I learned a really important lesson right here. I learned after 10 days that I couldn't do it alone. I wasn't telling my family about it. I wanted to keep it a secret because my dad, who's 80, just had open heart surgery. And after open heart surgery, his spleen exploded. No, sorry, his appendix exploded. Then he got COVID. And my dad is this cowboy. He's literally a cowboy. He lives in Hay, Washington. Toughest guy, amazing father. He's the rock of our family. He's the patriarch of our family. So I didn't want the prayers for me. I wanted to make sure they were going to him. But on this 10th day, my fever was spiking. They said to my wife, if he doesn't break this fever, we got to take him into the hospital. She's going to get COVID pneumonia. And so I said, okay, I can't do this alone. And that was the first big lesson, I guess, as a spiritual teacher and a spiritual seeker. You think that you focus, you meditate, you pray, you study, you bring this light into the world, but you can't do it alone. And it's kind of, I guess it was my ego needed to be checked. So I told my family, and the next day I broke my fever. And I healed after 10, 12 days. I was back to normal, completely healthy. I love to golf. And I decided to go play 9 holes, carried my 25-pound clubs on my back, had a great round, felt like I was back to where I am right now, speaking with you, the same condition, felt great. Next day I wake up in the same bed and I'm numb head to foot. I can't feel anything. I can't feel my face, my hands. 2 days later, I lost the ability to walk. 2 trips to the ER. My wife and daughter carried me down the stairs, took me to the ER. It was a really tough goodbye because times of COVID, you couldn't have any visitors. I didn't know. And I was paralyzed. I was in a hospital, in an ER room, just terrified. I mean, my faith was tested the darkest days of my life. And I'm claustrophobic. They put me in an MRI tube, Stephanie, for 4.5 hours because they did not know what was wrong with me. After the 4.5 hours, I used every spiritual meditation, the Now-ist meditation, which is a meditation from my book, The Now-ist, visualization, singing, chanting, to go quantum, because the physical world, I called it my COVID cocoon, that MRI tube that I was stuck in. I had to get out of it. My energy, my awareness, the greatest gift I've been given, I believe, is my imagination, because I could live 3 miles above the earth, and I did. I get out of that. They spinal tap me to find out that I have this rare syndrome called Guillain-Barré syndrome. And it means my own immune system was eating the insulation around my nerves and it paralyzed me. So I spent 21 days in the hospital, had to learn to walk again, couldn't see my wife and daughter. So I went through a traumatic satori, if you will, a flash of enlightenment, a realization. And that first day I was terrified, Stephanie, because I didn't know if I was going to come back to my life and to my teaching and my wife, my daughter, and my music, all the things I love to do. And I realized the only way through this is to make this my spiritual practice. And that's what I did. The second day, I woke up still paralyzed. I couldn't even move my arms. I was in a bed for 7 days, immobilized. I said, I know how to get through this. I know how to heal from this. I'll make it my spiritual practice. And I'm going to therapize and give spiritual advice to every nurse, doctor, physical therapist, recreational therapist, any orderly that comes to help me. I'm going to serve them. And then I got better. It was counterintuitive. And I walked out of there 21 days later with a cane. 2 weeks after that, I was golfing again. It's a miracle that doctors still can't figure out how somebody got Guillain-Barré syndrome from COVID and had a full recovery.
So powerful. It's so powerful. And it's so interesting as you're saying this story, Billy, that this light keeps kind of illuminating. And it's
really?
Like, yeah. People will be able to see it when they watch the video. It's very, very cool. So obviously you were so plugged in, and my gosh, I mean, what a miracle.
It was
the
absolutely.
whole thing. I mean, those are the kind of stories we hear that those are people's worst nightmares. And for you to have found, that this is what we've heard about so often, I think, when we hear about the dark night of the soul.
Yes.
And some people don't come out of that, and some people find, again, profound faith. And it sounds like that.
Yeah, Stephanie, I feel like, I know that God said, okay, I'll give you this teaching. And if you're the spiritual teacher, I'm going to give you an experience that's going to prove your teaching and what you've studied and the service that you do, the work, your dharma, your purpose, that it's correct, and that you use what you learned and what you've experienced to serve people. And it was just meant to be, because then 3 months later, part of, like I said, that my imagination is the greatest gift, because part of what got me through was what I call thinking from the end instead of about the end. I was there paralyzed, but imagining myself just 3 months later was my very first live seminar, the Now-ist Experience Live. The same one we're doing this May 13th and 14th. Last year, May 7th and 8th, we had the very first one, but I was paralyzed. I thought, I just kept seeing myself on stage playing music with Kirsten, my bandmate, in our band in the present tense, which are all these songs we've written. We have this 10-song record. 8 of those songs we perform live. I kept seeing myself performing, teaching, serving people, just performing, and just felt this coherent energy in this room. I kept living in that end thousands of times through the 21 days, dark nights of the soul. I just lived there. And I feel like I know the law of attraction, the divine mind, the connective, coherent energy that we are all from, the light that we are all from. I saw a glimpse of that. I was aligned with it. I completely aligned with it. And I was pulled through all of this to this miraculous end. And so that I can serve and come from a place of greater humility and greater service.
Oh my gosh, this is so powerful and absolutely beautiful. And we're going to have to take a quick break. But when we come back, more inspiration. I absolutely love this. Join us with Billy Mandarino. We'll be right back.
To me, it's surreal. It's just, yeah, I'm so grateful for it. And my wife and daughter were traumatized, and I wouldn't change it. I would change it for them. But for me, it was one of the greatest gifts that I was given. And in the darkest time of my life was one of the greatest gifts I was ever given. It was amazing. It now feels just like a dream that didn't happen. But now I know it happened because I keep living into it. I keep living into it and just being grateful for it. And making it my spiritual practice was just an intuitive intention that I had when I was so terrified. It was the only way I could go. Other ways were negative thoughts of not walking again, of not being back in my life and not serving again. It was the opposite. Was just, there was no way to go to the darkness. I couldn't go to the darkness. I just knew it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you're hearing this now, we're back with Billy, because this content is so important. I want people to hear this, because I think it's so easy to get lost in that negative image that you were just talking about. And I think, understanding the mechanisms of the brain, I know we have this natural negativity bias, and that's that part of us that's always trying to keep us safe. And unfortunately, the way it tries to do that is by coming up with worst case scenario. And so when that would automatically pop into your mind, how did you shift that?
Well,
what mechanism did you use? Yeah.
It's so much like, it sounds cute and corny, but it's the spark. It's the name of your podcast, of your radio show. It was, I just knew, like, intuitively, literally, I was in this darkness, right? Like before a fire starts, right? You need to have a catalyst. You need to have something. In my spiritual immunity, if you will, studying and practicing the Now-ist teaching, but also studying all these other teachers that led me up to this point. It was almost like your subconscious programming, like the same part of the autonomic nervous system that's your fight or flight. Mm-hmm. You can have this subconscious programming. I call it your spiritual immunity. If you study, like, I know you are a spiritual seeker. You're like me. I mean, we are probably equally yoked, and people that do this and souls that are connected to the light, you eventually become light yourself. As it says in the New Testament, Paul says that which, is touched by light, the darkness is touched by light, becomes light itself. And this natural subconscious programming, this natural immunity just like kicked in. It just felt, I have like I said, a low pain threshold. It just felt so powerfully negative to be in the darkness and the paralysis. Literally, I was in darkness. I was in the MRI tube. I was in darkness. I just knew that the way out was not to go deeper into the darkness, but to surrender to it and then have that spark, that light, which is present moment awareness, with your divine focus, with your God realization, with the connection to all that is, and use my imagination to focus on that end. From the end, in that paralysis, in that darkness, I just kept seeing the light, which was me back to regular life. And it was the law of attraction, the law of identical harvest. Many, seekers have recognized that as this like attracts like. I just feel like that. But the thing that really took me out of it, I believe, was the counterintuitive nature of, I need help from everybody. I need all these doctors. They gave me this immunoglobulin G, Stephanie, which is this white fluid. It takes 1,000 blood donors to spin out 1 pint I had 8 pints of this. These pints are $5,000 a pint. I had 8 of them. And that's what interrupted my immune system from eating itself. And it gave it so much immunity, so much positive physical immunity. But I flooded myself with spiritual immunity, with light, if you will. That combination, I believe, is what saved me. And then knowing that I needed to pay it forward to people. I needed to serve everybody that was serving me with a light energy, with not a doom and gloom, poor me. It was like, I know, how can I serve you? Thank you for coming in. Thank you for picking me up off the bed because I can't move. It was unbelievable, an unbelievable shift in the power of intention, really.
Well, yeah, and I hear that. I mean, you were tapping into that part of you that is also a healer. And it was like, so you were on that frequency.
Yes.
So that when people were coming into the room, it's not that you weren't receiving their care, but you were in already, it sounds like, just that frequency of gratitude. And then, yes, I love that. You know, to me, it always feels like this infinity sign. Oh, yes. Right. Of energy. And so, you know, here they are caring for you. And then the gift that you're giving them. And, you know, it reminds me of seeing Ram Dass's, that final film. I can't remember the exact title. Still Here, right? Okay. Still Here. And when they talk, you know, he talks about when he was totally unable to walk, he was in a wheelchair, and then the power, and I heard you say that, you know, the power to surrender to what is. And it doesn't mean that we give up hope. You know, it sounds like for you, you know, you surrender to, yep, I'm in this situation right now. And so from that place, there's a choice, right? There's this choice of, I'm going to attune to that frequency, which is already in me, which is, you know, we could call our essence or our God spark, you know, that connection that then you are healing your healers. I love that you mentioned Ram Dass, because of course he wrote Be Here Now, right? Or Be Here Now, his seminal book on the now, right? Obviously, then Eckhart Tolle was inspired by his book, and I was inspired by all those books about living in the present moment, because it's great teaching, right? They're universal truths, and it's so great that different people like yourself and other teachers, you know, tap into the truths, but they're all available to everybody. I mean, Ram Dass is brilliant. I watched that movie too. I think it was called Still Here. Okay. It was beautiful because he obviously is known as, they call him the father of the now, I think, or he has some moniker. But I remember thinking, you know, when the Now-ist idea came through, I was just searching other great teachers that really focused on the present moment. Jesus Christ, Ram Dass, Eckhart Tolle, Neville Goddard, all these wonderful teachers that really talk about the power of or in A Course in Miracles, the holy instant. You know, it's just a beautiful concept, but I don't think we make it a practice enough. And that's why this book came through me. And of course, I used everything in that book to help heal me, as well as other teachers that had come through me at the time, because it was a moment out of time. Now I look back on it, when you think of it in chronological time, it does not feel like it occurred. It feels like it was just a bad dream. But then I see the face of my wife and my daughter and people, my family, that were just mortified by it. And this doesn't happen to Billy. He doesn't get sick. He's not that kind of guy. But it was so amazing to go through it. And I hate to be giddy about it, but I kind of am, because it taught me so much about surrender. And now that I can teach other people from that place, and that's the mission and the message, I guess, to tell people that are watching and listening, like, you are stronger than you know. The unknown is where the growth is. And the act of positively surrendering and then using the greatest gift that is your imagination in the present moment to imagine yourself out of these trials, these traumas in your life, that's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself, and then to give other people, because you just want to pay it forward and serve people with it. That's so beautiful. That's so right on, you know, and I have this image of you having, you know, yes, this heartfelt and intellectual knowledge before that incident. And it takes it to this whole other cellular level where you're living it. And I don't know if you remember, like, Louise Hay, who was doing all of, you know, all the affirmations and really teaching people you can heal your life. Yes. And then she ended up getting cancer.
Just like Dr. Wayne Dyer, right? And they died on the same day. They died. They made the transition on August 31st, the same day. She passed away, I think, 2 or 3 years later, but they both passed away on the same day. Was that synchronicity or what? That is, you know, and so isn't it interesting, though, that I think
and I really do believe in that as well. Like how you haven't been sick forever. I feel really blessed too, that when I've got COVID, I barely knew that I had it. And I've been able to transmute, I think, as we vibrate higher as well. That it reminds me too of all the way back. You remember in Star Wars when Obi-Wan, the guards come up to him and he just goes, "You can pass."
Yes.
And so it's like that energy couldn't even affect him. To me, that was such a metaphor for what this is like.
Oh my gosh, you're so right on. No one's ever articulated that way, but that's so perfect because that's exactly the image and the feeling of that scene was kind of what it felt like. That's a perfect image for it too. That's how it was.
Yeah.
You take the control. You take control over it, and in a surrendering way. So that's the counterintuitive part of it. Right.
Well, and I want to talk about that, Billy, because I think, wow, that has been such a powerful practice catalyst in my life, has been this profound ability to surrender. And I like the way that you frame it, positive surrender, because there's such a misnomer. I think people a lot of times hear the word surrender and they immediately, it's like, you're a coward, you're a doormat, you're waving the white flag. Yeah. And it couldn't be more opposite. So can you talk a little bit more about that? Just about, the principle for you when you talk about positive surrender and then the power of that in your own life.
Yes. Thank you for asking that question, because that's the theme, I guess, of our podcast right now, our talk, because I don't think people understand how to surrender. Like you said, it becomes this scary thing. Like I'm giving up, like I can't compete anymore. I'm not motivated anymore. But surrender doesn't come from motivation. It comes from inspiration. And I wasn't motivated to get better. I was inspired. And there's a different energy with motivation and inspiration. I mean, inspiration is just an internal light of your heart's the most magnetic part of your body. And speaking of positive surrender, I'll tell you a quick story while I was in the hospital about the power of surrender. You have to surrender when you can't move physically. I physically was in a bed for 7 days and I could not move. I mean, I could pick up a few things. The nurses were picking up my phone so my wife could FaceTime me at nights, and because I couldn't do the basic things. And I learned that surrendering physically was the porthole to get into the spiritual surrender, because I was forced into it. But the counterintuitive part is when I realized that I could let go and let God, it's as they say in the recovery movement, when I could get out of the motivation of trying to get walking again, like, oh God, it's going to be hard. Because I love sports. I'm an athlete. I love golf and I'm athletic. So I think, you just try harder. You just work out harder, do more reps, practice. But in this moment, it was so counterintuitive because I realized that, no, I can't try to do this. I have to surrender to it. And I have to the light, the energy of my heart, which is a connection to the divine, to the oneness, to the power of intention. And how that happened was I was in the bed and I got a call from a client of mine's brother-in-law who was suffering with what at the time was called long haulers. It's still called long haulers, but then long hauler syndrome. Are you familiar with that term? Long hauler syndrome is basically what I got from COVID. There's 460,000 people in this county of Santa Barbara. And at the time I was the only COVID patient to get long hauler syndrome from COVID. Guillain-Barré syndrome is one of the worst outcomes from COVID that you can possibly get besides dying. And it's very rare. 1 or 2 in a million this happens to. It's very, very rare. The doctors were stunned. They'd never seen it. That's why they studied my case for so long. But I got a call from a client of mine trying to support me. I'm getting, oh my gosh, Stephanie, my room looked like a floral shop. Emails, flowers, letters, balloons. It was amazing. I was just so connected, and people were so connected to me because I've served this community of Santa Barbara for many years. I've been here 28 years, and everybody just rallied to serve me. But this one of my clients' brother-in-law had COVID, and he's suffering from what's called long hauler syndrome, which there's like 250, things like brain fog, phantom bone break syndrome, fibromyalgia. You get, numbness. You get constant neuropathy, nerve pain. There's so many different things that happen from people that get post-COVID syndrome, it's called, or long haulers. 30% of everybody that gets COVID will have long hauler syndrome of some kind. So this gentleman calls me up because he was suffering from it. And he was wanting to support me. He's a pastor of my clients. And he said, hey, can I pray for you? I know, that what you're going through, you're paralyzed, but my client told me, basically, she just said, I want to help you, Billy. And she sent me her pastor brother-in-law that was suffering from this brain fog. He's an ex-SEAL. He works for the Department of Defense, and he couldn't work anymore after COVID because he had such severe brain fog from this long hauler. So he said, I want to pray for you, Billy. Kind of like the counterintuitive nature, like he's sick and he wants to serve me. And I was kind of already in this mindset, oh, this is synchronicity. So this wonderful gentleman, we're on the phone, and it's on speakerphone, it's sitting next to me. And I put my hands like this. He said, I want to pray for you. So I knew the heart's the most magnetic part. So I've got my left hand on my heart, my right hand's covering. I'm just taking it in. And all of a sudden, my heart got so hot. And I thought, oh my God, what is this part of the paralysis? Because my nurse had to put the hands here because I couldn't do it, because I couldn't move my arm. She put my hands, so can you put it on my heart? And then my heart, she left the room because he talked to me for like 20 minutes. It felt like an hour, but it was just 20 minutes. And my heart started beating 138 beats a minute. And the nurse ran in, thought I was having a heart attack. But the power of his prayer, Stephanie, was lighting up my heart. And I didn't even feel my heart was racing. I didn't even feel it beating fast. The speed of prayer and this universal connected oneness in prayer, the higher energy fields of prayer was healing me. And I'm convinced that that's part of the reason 50% I believe was the doctors, and 50% was the thousands of people praying for me, specifically this wonderful pastor from Alabama. And that connected energy was miraculous. And that's how I learned to surrender. And my surrender was rewarded by this collective energy of prayer. And then for me, I just wanted to pay it forward. I just consistently wanted to keep paying it forward from that point on. That was like day 2 or 3 in the hospital.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, so powerful and so beautiful. And, the thing is, like, I love how you say, even on your website, you were talking about, this isn't woo-woo, and some people, when they start hearing about spirituality or energy or frequency, they don't quite know how to dial in on this. And there are so many research studies about the power of prayer, about the power of our intentional, focused thought.
Yes.
And how that changes things from a molecule of water, where if you've seen Messages in Water.
Oh my God, Dr. Emoto.
Dr. Emoto, yes.
I actually spend about a half hour on Dr. Emoto in my live seminar, talking about that book and how you can physically change water through prayer.
Yeah.
And we're made of water. We're 70% water, right?
Yeah. And so you think of that, our thoughts, our intentions, where we focus our energy, like you were saying, it all becomes imperative. And so what a beautiful thing that you've helped send that through, and you are paying it forward. You were already paying it forward, but now going through this event, wow.
It was all meant to be.
Not much more.
It was all meant to be. And I encourage people listening, watching, to make the hardest times of your life your spiritual practice. And then that positive surrender that you experience, your life will get better. It's counterintuitive because you'll heal other people and you will heal faster. If you're going through struggles, physical, financial, emotional, relationships, whatever struggles you're going through, give away what you want to get. If you're broke, if you're financially, go give a little bit of money to someone that can't repay you. If you're out of a relationship, go find a friend that needs some advice, or set them up with your friend. If you're alone, go find an elderly person, read to them in some convalescent center. Just give away what you want, and what you want will attract to you. Absolutely
true. Absolutely true. We are going to take a short break. I am just glowing over here, Billy. This is my jam. I love talking about this with you, and you are just
you are my soul sister. I totally feel the connection, Stephanie. This is light. This is true light.
Love it. Love it. Well, we will be right back. Join us for even more light for the last part of this segment with Billy Mandarino. We'll be right back. Oh my gosh, that your life is amazing.
A lot of it, I can't believe that it happened. I mean, it's just like there's that surrealness about it, but also I'm so grateful it happened. It's so weird to say that, but
no, of course. Yeah.
It was this profound, and I'm just so thankful that I'm in this very small 5 percentile, according to the doctors, of people that don't have a hangover condition like a numbness or brain fog or a lame limb or, neuropathy, severe nerve pain. I'm just so fortunate. I call it I'm 110% better because I got the 10% of the experience. So I was better. Like the monarch butterfly, right? I was in that COVID cocoon, and I kept imagining myself in higher versions of myself, like that monarch butterfly. So that's why it was so apropos that I was in that cylindrical, like it looks like a caterpillar almost, that I then ultimately have this experience to find the highest part of me through this rigor mortis and this pain that suffering I was going through.
Well, and you can only imagine, and we're going to keep on rolling because I love all this content. This is all so good, Billy. And, and I think that that's so true. Once in a while, I'll think about that metamorphosis of, that caterpillar that can't be comfortable. It's literally dissolving.
It is, right. It's death. It dies.
Yeah.
Like Lazarus, it comes back to life.
Right. And so really powerful connections when we think of it, when we die unto ourselves, or we die unto that, maybe it's that ego part of ourselves, or in surrender. I know my experience has been dying to that part of me that thinks it has to be a certain way.
One of the chapters of my book, the title is Die Before You Die. That's one of the titles of my book, or one of the chapters in my book. I forget which chapter it is, but Die Before You Die. That's exactly what I teach about, I speak about, I have experiences in that. And boy, that's exactly what happened for me, is I had to die to the ego self, which I love Dr. Wayne Dyer. He's in my book, so much in my book. He has EGO, edging God out. You have to die to that ego self.
Yeah.
That's the death.
Yeah. You and I really resonate on that as well. He's been one of my life teachers. And absolutely. And I think that there's also, I think, especially as a psychotherapist, we talk about healthy ego. And, there is a part of us that's a healthy ego, but I don't even want to use that word anymore, because I feel like, it's really about how do you get in touch with your healthy spirit. That part of you that has no investment in how things have to be, how you look to the outside world, what people think of you, or like you said, just being able to be a human being instead of I've got to do something. I've got to out here all my programs for happiness, instead it's like, they're all right here. Everything that we're all searching for is already right there.
You're so right. It's a journey without distance. It's a step in the direction of you. It's not an outward bound journey. It's like, it's onward and inward, not onward and upward. It's onward and inward.
Love that. Yes. Yeah. So let's talk about this event that you have coming up, because it sounds so exciting. Tell me a little bit about what's real quick.
If you and Morgan want to come, I would love you to be my guest. I'm just offering that up. I know you live in a different part of the country.
We live in Colorado.
Yes. And I'm in Santa Barbara, but it's amazing. It's coming up in, like 70 days. It's May 13th and 14th of this year, 2022. And it's called the Now-ist Experience Live. We had our first one last year, and oh my gosh, it was so fresh. Everything we're talking about was so fresh, because exactly a year ago, practically. And now I'm going to bring it into a different genre of teaching, I guess, because life goes on. You have more experiences. I'm definitely going to bring those stories in, because there's so much teaching around those stories. But my band, in the present tense, Kirsten and my band, we have this record, and 8 of those songs, we perform them live. So here's kind of the framework of the seminar. So we have music, and each song is written around a pillar of the Now-ist teaching. So we perform the songs live. So the first one would be called Fingerprint. We just performed it yesterday on our Facebook page, because we're kind of performing each song, ramping up to the event. But the first song, to give you a sneak peek, is called Fingerprint. And it's talking about your individuality and how you're a snowflake, you're an original. We don't honor ourselves. We don't celebrate ourselves. We're so in the seeking mode that we forget to honor who we are and what we've accomplished this far in our life. And so then I teach around that, and there's a music video and there's lights, and it's just like it's the Now-ist experience, because it's visceral, it's auditorial, it's visual, it's socialized. We have a socialized learning component to it. It's just, there's this coherent energy. The people that walk into that seminar, Stephanie, are not the same people that walk out 2 days later. Yeah. And it's 2 days of immersion. It's just, you fall in love with everybody, and you all serve each other. We go deep into Ho'oponopono. We go deep into imagination. We go deep into service and paying it forward, and what it looks like to upregulate these lower levels of your energy field, and how to get into these epigenetic expressions of your body. I love Dr. Joe Dispenza, Wim Hof. We talk about Bruce Lipton. We go through all these great teachings, but we experience them together. That's why it's the Now-ist Experience Live. It's how to experience what being a Now-ist is what it's like. And you take this into your life, and then you leave that and you just keep building and you keep growing. And so it's coming up. You go to billymandarino.com. And I'm reducing the price because I want more people to come. It's right now $333 for a general admission. I'm dropping it to $222. My webmaster, my marketing people are working on it right now. And if you want to be a VIP and be with my inner circle, my family, we're having a VIP dinner at $777. And it's just going to be, it's right across the street from the beach here in the American Riviera. It's gorgeous. Literally, the hotel, I've got a really nice reduced rate for everybody. If you go to billymandarino.com, you can see the link right there. And if you want to just email me or text me, find me on all my social media, happy to chat about it and just let you know how powerful it is. And we just love to have people there that are like-minded and like-hearted and ready to just go into this next level of presence and learning how to be a Now-ist.
Oh my gosh, such an exciting event. I absolutely want to go. So I'm going to be talking to my guy about that when we get off.
Dude, you be my guest. Literally, you're a VIP. I'm bringing you in.
Oh,
I'm saying it right now. I'm just throwing it out there because I just think you and Morgan are amazing. I'm just so grateful to be on your show. I just want to share it. I mean, what a gift of people, the people that are going to be in that room and have you and Morgan there would be amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. And you know what I love too is when people do these kind of experiences, I love it because something changes, Billy, on a cellular level. They're not just going and hearing someone speak, you know, they're assimilating it into their being. And so, I mean, talk about a gift. I love that because that's what you're doing. It's like you're handing them something that then becomes a part of who they are so they can carry it in them and out into the world.
I love, Stephanie, that you said who you are, because I know The Secret was a really big thing that came out in 2006. You remember The Secret? Everybody saw it.
Yeah.
It talks to you about the law of attraction and what you want. And the only thing The Secret, I think, got wrong was they said, you know, you attract what you want into your life, but you don't attract what you want. You only attract, like you said, what you are. And if what you are is scarcity and lack and fear and doubt, you're only going to bring more of that. So to be a Now-ist is, like you said, it brings you into this new awareness of the present moment, how to live in the present moment as a way of life, not as a religion, but as a practice. It gives you peace, gets you out of stress, overwhelm, anxiety, helps you focus on what it is you want to manifest and bring into your life, to use your imagination. That's what pulled me out of that COVID cocoon, was largely my connected to energy to spirit, but my imagination, seeing the end, seeing me back with my wife and daughter and golfing and on stages and speaking and teaching and just caring for people, loving on people. It was that gift. And I want to teach you how to do that in person with 200 other people in this coherent energy field, just lighting up that room and lighting up the world with our love.
So exciting. And we know that's true, right? That as we get again into that energy that you're talking about, lighting up that room with love, it's like concentric circles that radiate out from there.
I'm getting the chills as you're saying that. I'm literally getting the chills. Like I'm connecting with you in that, and that's the energy that I'm talking about that you experience live. But imagine it with 200 energy fields, like 200 individual lights. Just the room might catch on fire. You might have to call the fire department. It will be that palpable.
Right. It might spontaneously combust. I mean, I feel that that's a possibility.
I'm a little worried now.
Oh, this is so exciting. Well, what a joy talking with you, Billy. And, you know, as we're getting closer to the end here of our interview, you know, what is the essential message that you want to make sure that you're leaving with the listeners?
Wow. I don't know about you, Stephanie, but the last 2 years, beyond everything that I went through, have been traumatic for our planet, traumatic for the Gaia, the earth energy of the world. Sorry to get too woo-woo, but I know your listeners probably understand that the earth energy is called Gaia. And imagine all that negative energy we put into this planet, into the collective consciousness, the collective energy field of this planet. And then you've got, right now, we're in this threat of Russia, right? You've got so much going on and fear. And for me, the bigger virus was the virus of fear for the last years, not the COVID virus that almost killed me and paralyzed me. That was not the bigger virus. The virus of fear was the biggest virus. And it doesn't seem like it's letting down that much because everybody's attention and their focus, their present moment focus is very, it's kind of on the back burner right now because everyone's thinking about what's this next thing that's going to be fearful and take me out of my presence. So my wish and hope and prayer and consistent prayer, my focused energy and my focused light is on that global peace that we could all experience by becoming Now-ists, a legion of Now-ists, if you will. So the Now-ist meditation takes 1 minute, and I teach it in depth at the Now-ist Experience Live, but you can go to billymandarino.com. All of my social media channels. I have 530 videos on my YouTube channel that are free teaching all about living as a Now-ist in present moment. But if you can go to any of my social media channels, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, I'm on all of them. There's so much free teaching there. And if you can't make it to the Now Experience Live, last year we recorded the entire Now-ist Experience Live and made it an 8-module course. So you can pick that up on my site as well at billymandarino.com. But I'll give it to people for free, literally. If you email me, because I'm all in with this, Stephanie. I want to change this planet because we are still in fear. We're still in overwhelm and anxiety. And I want to create this legion of Now-ists. So I'm all in the sense that I'm going to do my part. This event is largely about getting people in that coherent energy field. But if you can't come to the event, go to my website. It's called the Now-ist Digital Ticket. Send me a personal email. You can just click contact me. I will send you a code for that course to be free. It's a $197 course. I'll send it to you for free because I am so committed to creating this Now-ist presence in the world. And I want to help people learn how to do that because that's how we can shift this virus of fear. This global energy can shift to light, to love, to service. We can be alchemists and transmute this lower fear into higher energies of light.
Yes. 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 Billy. Oh my gosh. What a joy. What a gift. What a gift you are and light in this world. Thank you so much for being my guest.
Oh, thank you, Stephanie. You're the light. I'm just thankful that these two logs were on the fire together and we got to light it up even more.
Heck yes. So everyone, please check out the event. If you can come. Watch Billy's videos and join us again next week on The Spark. Thank you so much, Billy.
Thank you, Soul Sister Stephanie. All the best to you.
Thanks for tuning in to The Spark with Stephanie James. Remember that you already have what you need to live a life that is fully lit and fully alive. You're already holding the flame. Now it's time to ignite your best life. Learn more at stephaniejames.world. That's stephaniejames.world. And tune in next week at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, only on transformationtalkradio.com. Shine on!